Evening, every pony on YouTube. It's me. I'm back with another chapter, real soon, like I promised in the comments of the previous vid. Um, Fortunately for that situation, this is not as long a chapter as the previous, so it was easy to just take a little time out this evening and do it. Um, don't have anything else to say at this point, but thanks once again to all who've subscribed to me, and I hope they keep right on enjoying. So let's go. Chapter the 7th. It's always the shy ones. Vinyl's hearing came into function, and her vision was still extremely blurry. She could hear voices, but barely.
"Managed to restore breathing, but the wound was pretty deep,"
said a soft voice. "Do you think she'll make it? I'd be mighty disappointed if she died on me after I walked all the way here from Hoofington," came a concerned voice, caked with a heavy accent. It was Applejack.
"Oh, well, I'm not sure, Applejack. The stab wound was really bad, and she had a bullet lodged in her left leg. Whoever she is, she went through a lot, and I'm surprised she didn't bleed out on the way here,"
said the other mare. Vinyl's vision was starting to come back, and she could make out a pastel yellow Pegasus standing next to her, a bunch of blood-covered cloths in her arms. She bore a cutie mark of 3 butterflies, and had a flowing, brilliant pink mane. "But she's fine now?" Applejack asked.
"Oh, yes. I got the blood to stop flowing, and she's breathing steadily now. She'll need a lot of rest and tender care, and that's exactly what I'm good at,"
said the Pegasus. Vinyl heard Applejack sigh in relief. "I don't know if I could ever repay you, Fluttershy, for what you've done for me and her." Applejack had gotten up and embraced the Pegasus, who Vinyl had pieced together was Fluttershy. As the two continued to converse, Vinyl racked her brain to try and remember the events leading up to where she was right now. She'd gotten her assignment from Baines, and met with Don Livestrong. She'd killed Scolder. Her throat got dry, and her heart jumped at this thought. She'd had her little run-in with the blue unicorn. What was her name?
"Trixie,"
said Fluttershy. Right, that was her name. Wait, why were they talking about her? Vinyl ceased her pondering and listened.
"She showed up just outside the forest, beaten up pretty badly. I have her upstairs now,"
the Pegasus finished, gesturing to a set of stairs. Trixie was upstairs? Oh goody. Vinyl could finish this once and for all. The yellow mare turned and looked down at Vinyl, who had shut her eyes.
"She's a lot worse, though,"
Fluttershy said, placing a hoof on Vinyl's forehead, making Vinyl blush a bit.
"What did you say her name was, Applejack?"
"Vinyl's what you told me," Applejack said. Vinyl popped an eye open, and Fluttershy was no longer standing over her. "Twi, what's on your mind, Sugar Cube? You've been quiet this whole time," Applejack said, turning her head to a purple unicorn sitting in the corner of the room.
"Oh, sorry, Applejack. Just thinking,"
the unicorn said, smiling. Vinyl looked at the unicorn, who had a blank expression. Obviously, she was quite disturbed in her mind.
"Twilight Sparkle, you need to get out more,"
Fluttershy stated, hoofs on her hips.
"You spend too much time locked in that library." "Oh, I'm sorry, Twilight."
The Pegasus slowly digressed from her assertion. The name Twilight Sparkle sparked something in Vinyl's mind.
"Oh, right. That's who I'm after,"
Vinyl thought. To be truthful, she really saw no reason in following the Don's orders, but something in the back of her mind wanted to tear the unicorn apart and watch her innards spill all over the wooden floor. Vinyl shivered at the thought. She was definitely not okay in the head right now. Vinyl coughed raspily, and Fluttershy jumped, turning around quickly.
"Oh, you're awake? Are you feeling okay?"
she said shyly, leaning down over Vinyl to check her temperature. Vinyl opened her mouth to speak, but her throat was so damn dry, and her hooves were so sweaty. "I'm fine, I guess," Vinyl finally managed to choke out. Her heart beat faster as Fluttershy ran her hooves along Vinyl's chest, checking for fractures or anything out of place. Vinyl winced as the Pegasus put pressure on the bandages.
"You're very lucky, you know. Vinyl,"
Fluttershy began.
"Whatever stabbed you, it missed every vital organ from your spine to your kidneys,"
she said, poking gently at Vinyl's ribcage.
"I'd hardly describe... Ouch! This is lucky,"
Vinyl said dryly. Fluttershy chuckled, and Vinyl's cheeks turned red again. She was so cute. Fluttershy noticed the redness of the unicorn's cheeks, causing her own cheeks to redden, and she turned away. Suddenly, Twilight stood up and left, slamming the door violently. Every pony stared at the door in shock. I'm gonna go see what's wrong with Twi," Applejack said, leaving the room.
"That was strange,"
Fluttershy muttered, looking back to Vinyl, who was still blushing. The two stared at each other in silence for what seemed an eternity. Vinyl was the one to make the first move, sitting up slowly and locking lips with the Pegasus. It was amazing for a moment, and the pastel pony pulled away.
"Oh, I'm so sorry,"
Fluttershy stuttered, cheeks redder than ever. She turned tail and ran upstairs, lightning fast. Vinyl sighed.
"Damn it, Vinyl, you're such an idiot,"
she thought, smacking herself in the face with her hoof. Bad idea, seeing as she still had her fayette on. Her head began to ache instantly, and her eyes watered. Dumbass, she thought, lying back down. Fluttershy ran into her room upstairs and shut the door behind her, flattening against the wall. Did that really just happen? Vinyl was cute and all, but it was so sudden. How did she know that Fluttershy was into mares? The Pegasus took a breath and slid down to the floor. This entire week had just been thing after thing. First Trixie shows up with half her ear missing, and then Applejack shows up with a near-death unicorn wearing some crazy boot on her hoof. Then she finds out that Twilight is being hunted, and that there's a war going on out in the west. Fluttershy laid down on the floor and closed her eyes. What in the wide world of Equestria was going on? Suddenly she began to sob. She didn't know why, she felt fine, but the tears just started flowing. She wished for things to go back to normal. No pony being hurt, no pony in danger, no pony being killed. It was all just too much for the mare to comprehend so suddenly. Fluttershy wailed loudly, banging her hooves against the floor. Angel Bunny came out from under her bed and snuggled up to her. Fluttershy smiled and wiped the tears from her eyes.
"Thanks, Angel,"
she mumbled. "Twi? Twi?" Applejack called out desperately, looking for the purple unicorn. After Twilight had left the cottage, she ran off into Ponyville, presumably to the library. But when Applejack arrived at the library, she didn't see a single sign of life. A small light coming from the staircase down to the basement caught her eye, and she descended into the darkness. There Twilight was, sitting at a desk, head buried in a book.
"Twi?"
Applejack said softly. The unicorn jumped.
"Oh, Applejack! Hi! I was just, reading this book, and..."
Twilight began, stumbling over her words nervously. Applejack stared at the pony blankly.
"Come on now, Twi. What's wrong? I can tell you ain't all right,"
Applejack said, approaching her friend with a smile. Twilight sighed.
"Well, earlier today, I got a visit from your cousin,"
Twilight began.
"Brayburn? In Ponyville?"
Applejack asked with a confused look.
"Yes, he was wearing some kind of cloak, and looked badly burned."
Twilight took a breath before continuing.
"He said some pony was trying to kill me."
She frowned.
"Some pony trying to kill you? Twilight, I think you've been inside too long. Why would some pony want to do any harm to you?"
Applejack scoffed.
"I don't know, Applejack, but that's not the worst part."
The unicorn gulped.
"As he told me this, Fluttershy showed up as if from nowhere at all."
Twilight looked to her friend worriedly.
"Twilight, you aren't saying that you think Fluttershy..."
Applejack started.
"Yes, I think Fluttershy might be some sort of assassin or something,"
Twilight said. Applejack stared for a minute, and then burst out laughing.
"Applejack, I'm being serious!"
Twilight barked angrily.
"Brayburn said it was some pony from a Manhattan mob. I've been looking through this book on the history of organized crime in Equestria, and, well..."
Twilight shoved the book towards Applejack. Applejack squinted and read the page aloud. The Manhattan Mob. See New Moon Mob. The Manhattan Mob, run by the notorious Wood Livestrong, is the main center of organized crime in Equestria. Applejack looked up from the book at Twilight, who gestured for her to continue. Her Majesty Princess Celestia has decided to shun the activities of the Manhattan Mob, leaving the activities to the lesser organizations such as the Equestrian Bureau of Investigation, CEBI. Twilight, I don't see where you're going with this, Sugar Cube, Applejack said, giving Twilight a confused look. Just keep reading. Here, read this paragraph. Twilight pointed a hoof mid-page. Applejack sighed and continued. The Manhattan Mob has been known to hire mercenaries or assassins to dispatch of ponies who may be in the way of mob operations. The method in which they find these killers for hire has yet to be found out, but the assassins hired are quite well trained. Applejack stopped reading. Twilight, I still don't see what any of this has to do with Fluttershy trying to kill you. The Earth Pony shook her head. I don't know, AJ. I might just be being paranoid, but never mind. The unicorn started pushing Applejack out of the basement. I've got some reading to do. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Applejack, Twilight said, shoving the pony upstairs and out the door. But The door was shut in Applejack's face. She sighed. Every pony was going crazy these days. Vinyl was laid down on the table where she had previously been, crying her little eyes out. Her brief romantic interaction with Fluttershy had brought back to her every memory of Ruby Rhubarb, and without the anger and adrenaline flooding her mind, it was like being hit by the moon. Every single moment she had spent with her as a filly played back in her mind, over and over and over again. It was torment more than nostalgia. Her heart ached, her head pounded, and her chest felt like it was going to explode. A sudden noise coming from the stairs caused Vinyl to cease her sobbing and sit up. There stood Fluttershy, her eyes puffy as if she too had been crying. Fluttershy, I'm sorry for earlier. Vinyl stopped as Fluttershy wrapped her arms tenderly around the unicorn. Vinyl's cheeks, for the 40th time that day, turned bright pink, almost pink enough to match her magenta eyes. Vinyl wrapped her arms around the Pegasus, who was now sobbing into Vinyl's shoulder. Vinyl patted the mare on the back. It's okay, she mumbled. Well, this was a surprise. Just a few minutes ago, Fluttershy had been fleeing up the stairs from Vinyl, and now she was crying on her shoulder. Vinyl felt somewhat accomplished having the Pegasus in her arms. She felt a sudden pulling in her chest, and then a spreading warmth. Fluttershy removed her arms from around the unicorn's neck and gasped, looking down. Vinyl looked down as the bandages around her stomach started to turn dark crimson.
Oh no! You've torn open your stitches!
Fluttershy screeched, grabbing a wicker basket off a nearby shelf. Vinyl began to feel woozy. Fuck, she thought, falling back against a table. The last thing Vinyl saw before she blacked out was Fluttershy standing over her with a rather large needle, a spool of thread, and a great look of distress on her face. The table began to get warm and wet, and the room spun quickly. Vinyl felt a stabbing pain in her chest, and lost consciousness. Later that night, the sound of the front door of the cottage opening awoke Vinyl. Her eyes shot open, and she blinked to adjust to the darkness of the room. Her chest felt really tight, and she was still a bit lightheaded.
Now, I need to find something. Not to prove to me she's the assassin. To prove to me she's not,
said a disembodied voice quietly. Vinyl continued to lay on the table, keeping her eyes and ears open. She heard the sound of some pony rummaging through a basket.
Nothing here,
said the voice again. A light clicked on upstairs, and the noise stopped. Some pony was walking down the stairs.
Who's there?
Fluttershy called out nervously. Vinyl could hear the Pegasus coming down the stairs slowly.
Hello?
She said, creeping around the table. Some pony in the other room fell over with a loud crash, and Fluttershy nearly jumped out of her hooves.
Twilight?
She said, confused.
Oh, hi, Fluttershy,
said the no longer disembodied voice. It was that purple unicorn from earlier, the one Vinyl was after.
What are you doing here so late?
Fluttershy questioned, sighing in relief. Nothing, Twilight said with a nervous laugh.
Oh, okay. Did you need something?
Said Fluttershy. No, just... Twilight jumped up mid-sentence and sped out of the cottage. There was silence for a while.
Vinyl, are you awake?
Fluttershy said out of nowhere. Yes, Vinyl said, sitting up.
How do you, go about, telling some pony, that you like mares?
Fluttershy's cheeks burned red, and she looked away in embarrassment. Vinyl also blushed a little bit. Well, I sorta just did it, Vinyl said, looking at the ground. Once again, the two were shrouded in an awkward silence. So you, like Twilight, then? Vinyl finally asked, the blush returning to her cheeks. Fluttershy gave a startled squeak and stared down at the floor.
Yes,
she said, pawing nervously. Oh, well, that's great, Vinyl said with a false smile. Damn, Vinyl thought. Her heart began to ache again. Fluttershy turned away and began to walk up the stairs, leaving Vinyl by herself in the darkness. Alone. Again. Vinyl sobbed, and lay back down on the table, wiping her eyes. And then she felt something soft against her lips, and opened her eyes to see Fluttershy kissing her. Fluttershy pulled back and blushed, dashing back up the stairs. Vinyl reached up with her hoof and touched her lips, eyes wide. She grinned and shut her eyes. Tonight, she'd be dreamin' of Pegasi. Aw, that's so adorable. I admit I'd forgotten all about this little interlude. That's just so sweet. I love reading Fluttershy. Even if, again, it's not the best impression. But, whatever. I hope everyone enjoyed, and thanks again for listening. I'll try and be back soon with the next part. Have a great night, every pony.